Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 46th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. High school can be a very divisive time in a young teen's life. Some have great experiences learning about life and growing up, and others have a terrible time, maybe being an outcast or branded with a label you don't want to carry. Some experience bullying and torment, while others experience popularity and admiration. But not everyone's experiences tilted one way or the other. Some just coasted through school, going unfazed by any of the politics high school had to offer, sticking with their small circles of friends and moving on after graduation. At any event, for everyone, no matter what generation, high school was different. But one thing each generation has in common is we all went through our teenage years and experienced a lot of similar things. Love, passions, heartbreak, jealousy, admiration, popularity, bullying, parental issues, identity crisis. I mean, you name it. Having said all that, I was determined to find the singular best high school teen movie. The one that any generation could get on board and relate to. The one that we all know and love for one reason or another. And watching these films, it was great to watch and rewatch some of these as an adult, being more mature, but also still remembering being in the shoes of certain characters in certain situations. I will say, I did enjoy a lot of films that aren't going to make the list, and some personal favorites that also won't make it. There will be some shockers and maybe a few unknowns. I factored in overall enjoyment, cultural impact, rewatchability, and relatability. I am leaving Harry Potter and horror high school movies off. So no Carrie, The Faculty, or Scream. I also picked films where being in school is a significant part of the story. So not just high school age. I couldn't pick just 10, so I picked 20 for you. I watched tons of high school films and narrowed this down from a list of a whole lot. I think I got this right. So let's get into the best high school movies of all time. Number 20, Varsity Blues, 1999, directed by Brian Robbins. I'm kicking off the list with one that most people don't bring up, with the clutter of great films out of the year of 1999. There are tons of great high school football movies like Friday Night Lights, Remember the Titans, Lucas, The Blind Side, and The Gridiron Gang. I know many of you will agree that at least Friday Night Lights is probably better than this in its portrayal of high school football, which you would be right. But this movie kind of kicked off the high school football movie craze that followed in the early 2000s. No pun intended. This movie was also a big inspiration for the coming of age parody, Not Another Teen movie. This is where the banana split bikini comes from. This film follows a group of high school football players who feel the pressure of their evil coach, played by Jon Voight. After the star QB goes down with a major injury, it's up to the backup to come in and save the day. We've seen this trope a million times, but this movie has that late 90s feel to the max and has some great lovable characters. They have fun, party, and joke around a lot. With that, this movie still follows some strong themes, like the pressures put on kids to perform, racial politics in sports, and what to do with your future when your plans derail. We got a young performance from the late Paul Walker in this, and this film is definitely one you should watch if you haven't seen. Number 19, Bring It On, 2000, directed by Peyton Reed. I'd have a few sports movies on the list. This is one I feel like everyone has seen, and it was wildly popular for its time. Kirsten Dunst was a huge back then and was in a ton of high school movies. She may even appear on this list again. This movie rode the coattails of a ton of the classic teen high school films that came out in the legendary year of 1999. Unlike a lot of the misses, this movie stood up just as tall as the ones in that year before it. Bring It On follows a group of high school cheerleaders who are renowned for their program. After it's revealed that they have been stealing their routines from a black school in East Compton, they set out to change and win on their own merits. This movie is funny, well written, well acted, and well directed. It has particularly perfect pacing with a bunch of fun characters and just the right amount of racial tension to give the story depth without going into dark territories. Kirsten Dunst brings it, no pun intended, in this movie, and she was honestly one of the most underrated actors of her generation. You also get a performance from a young Gabrielle Union. Watch this, and you'll be throwing up spirit fingers like gang signs. Number 18. She's the Man, 2006, directed by Andy Fickman. We've seen tons of the girl dresses like a guy movies, but something about She's the Man stands out in a unique way, and it's all because of Amanda Bynes' brilliant performance playing dual roles as Sebastian and Viola. Now, on paper, She's the Man should be corny, cheesy, and flat out terrible. But man, this movie is going to make you laugh. I don't care who you are. This is Shakespearean Tale is a very quotable movie with some surprising slick dialogue and a cliche plot that somehow still feels fresh. She's the Man follows a young soccer player whose school team cut the girls program. In order to get back at the men's coach for not letting her join the boys team, she poses as her twin brother at a neighboring school in order to get revenge on her old team and ex-boyfriend. We get a great early performance from a young Channing Tatum. Even though he's 26 in the movie, he looks pretty young. This film is just a good time and one to watch with your friends as you see Amanda Bynes possibly giving one of the most underrated and underappreciated performances of all time. This film has aged quite well and I would fully recommend it. Number 17, Drop Dead Gorgeous, 1999, directed by Michael Patrick Jan. This is going to be a strange one for the list, but hear me out. This mockumentary style film follows a group of high school girls who are entering a beauty pageant hosted in their small town in Minnesota. This is going to be one of the more unique entries on this list. This movie is beyond funny and in the most interesting way. It fits all of the middle America tropes that were present at the time this movie is supposed to take place. All the contestants would never make it in a real pageant. These are some of the most interesting and unique girls you'd ever see in a pageant. You see these girls and parents get catty using their resources and skills to one-up each other. This movie style is what brings it all together, being able to make fun of itself while taking itself just serious enough. The dark comical satire is one all fans of 90s and teen movies should see. We get some all-star performances from Kirsten Dunst yet again, Denise Richards, Amy Adams, the late Brittany Murphy, the late Kirstie Alley, Ellen Barkin, and Allison Janney. Number 16, Jawbreaker, 1999, directed by Darren Stein. I know a lot of people and critics alike would argue this isn't one of the best high school movies, but the major cult following it's gained over the years would say otherwise. Another release from the glorious year of 99, this film follows a group of popular girls at school who play a prank on one of their friends on her birthday. The aftermath of the prank leaves the girls at each other's throats. This is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I will say I may be a bit biased, but this movie is great. Cool style, crazy story, and a brilliant performance from Rose McGowan, and a great dual performance from Judy Greer. This movie is cutthroat and not your typical high school story, which is what gives it its uniqueness and edge. Its humor is cold and dark and themes are gritty and twisted. This movie has a lot of edge and will shock you and hold your attention throughout. If you like catty girl movies, this is right up your alley. Number 15, Napoleon Dynamite, 2004, directed by Jared Hess. This may be the strangest movie on the list, yet it was and still is so popular. This movie spawned a craze when I was in middle school, and everyone was wearing Vote for Pedro shirts. The weirdness and style of the film is almost like none other. The movie is even hard to distinguish whether it's 80s, 90s, present day, early 2000s. The people in this town seem to be very behind in time with the outfits and the hairstyles and the music. The movie follows Napoleon, a high school outcast who has a very distinct look, voice, and hairstyle. He is trying to help his boy Pedro win the school election. What makes this movie great is the quotes and the characters, particularly Kip and Uncle Rico. How much you want to bet I can throw a football over the mountains? This movie is dumb and silly, but in the best way possible. I watched this movie so many times back in the day and watched it and researching this video, and I knew almost every line still. This movie was and is a pop culture icon, whether you want it to be or not. Number 14, House Party, 1999, directed by Reginald Hudlin. I didn't see this one on too many lists, but for me, I think it's one of the most overlooked high school comedies. It gave us Kid and Play and some of the coolest and most iconic dance and rap numbers in the hip hop community. We had a dope freestyle rap battle in the movie, and we got a young appearance from the legendary duo of Martin Lawrence and Tisha Campbell. The film follows two high school best friends, Kid and Play, who plan to throw a party at Play's house while his parents are out of town. This movie is beyond funny and has some funny, memorable characters along with all the early 90s style and flair. Kid and Play have great chemistry while displaying a ton of talent by rapping, dancing, and acting. Robin Harris gives an iconic performance in this movie. If you've never seen this, give it a chance. You might be surprised. Number 13, Booksmart, 2019, directed by Olivia Wilde. Dubbed as the female-led Superbad, Booksmart is without a doubt one of the best high school movies to come out in the last few years and one of the funniest. It's a reflection on the current state of what it's like to be in high school in this modern world, with changing social dynamics without being preachy or putting too much emphasis on it. The film lets its style and themes breathe naturally. It follows two honor students who realize at the end of the school that they could have studied and partied with the other kids. Because of this, they are determined to get to a party thrown by one of the popular boys in school. And it's a ride all the way until you get there. Funny, slick, well acted, and directed, the soul of this movie, though, is in its two leads. They are perfectly opposite and have great chemistry, very similar to Michael Cera and Jonah Hill in Superbad. But trust me, Booksmart stands alone all on its own just fine. Number 12, The Breakfast Club, 1985, directed by John Hughes. You're a gutless turd. One of the most iconic and influential high school movies of all time from the legendary John Hughes. This movie has been parodied a ton of times and is a quintessential teen movie, an 80s classic, and some would even say is one of the greatest movies of all time, with one of the most iconic songs associated with it. Even though it's a bit after school, especially, it really does properly dive into the politics of high school for the times and the exploration of social class and the mixing of such. It follows a group of kids who go to a Saturday detention at the school. All of these kids roll with different cliques. The typical ones: jock, preppy, nerd, rebel, alternative. It shows them that they all are more alike than they would typically think, and their time together will change them forever. I'm sure most people have seen this movie. Kids now even love this movie, and its influence on pop culture is heavy. We got one of my favorite Emilio performances here. This is a Brat Pack classic, and for sure, one of the best ones. Everyone should have this on Blu-ray. Number 11, Juno, 2007, directed by Jason Reitman. Unique in its style, soundtrack, characters, cinematography, writing, and subject matter, Juno is funny in a weird way, uncomfortable in a great way, and amazing in every way. Juno follows a young, sort of edgy, grungy girl who gets pregnant by her shy and passive best friend. It deals with her and what she plans to do with the baby. What makes this movie great is it tackles something that happens all the time and yet is rarely talked about in movies: teen pregnancy. It tackles this subject in a mature, honest, funny, and heartfelt way that will leave the viewer feeling hopeful. If a young girl was going through a teen pregnancy, this would be a great movie to watch to put her mind at ease, no matter what decisions she decided to make. Elliot Page gives us a great breakout performance in this film. And hey, this is definitely one everyone should see at least once. All right, guys, before we get into the top 10, let's have a little intermission. First things first, if you got this far, do your boy a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. Drop some comments on what you think, guys. Trying to grow, and I really would appreciate your help. Guys, I'm going to give a streaming recommendation. I know I haven't done it in a while, but I want to bring it back. So, my recommendation for this week is Francis Ha, 2012, directed by Noah Baumbach, starring Greta Gerwig. This is a fun black and white movie. They call it a mumblecore film, but the story follows Greta Gerwig's character, Frances Ha, who is a dancer living in New York City in her late 20s, struggling with her adulthood, relationships with people and friends. This is just a fun ride watching Greta Gerwig go through and discover life and love. And hey, it's a short watch, and I enjoyed it so much. Actually, made me super excited for Barbie. Guys, this joint is streaming on Netflix. All right, got that out of the way. Let's get back into the best high school movies. Number 10, Election, 1999, directed by Alexander Payne. Based on the book of the same name, I'm going to get around to reading it. It's been sitting on my desk for a while. Another 1999 banger. This film sort of feels like I shouldn't put it on the list. It really isn't a coming of age story. It more so follows a teacher rather than students. But it's a movie all about high school and some of the things that go on in high school all the time. Election follows a teacher who ends up getting his whole life turned upside down, all due to this school election. This is quirky and weird movie that I wouldn't say is for everyone, but I do love this movie very, very much, and is one I watched a ton as a kid. It's filled with dark humor and some uncomfortable yet hilarious moments you'll never forget. You get some all-star performances from Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon. If you haven't seen this movie, I think you should at least give it a chance one time. Number 9, 10 Things I Hate About You, 1999, directed by Gil Unger. One of the staples in high school movies, and another released in the great 1999. This Shakespearean movie came out in a time where these were being cranked out left and right. 99 alone has so many great high school comedies. She's All That, American Pie, Never Been Kissed, Drive Me Crazy. I mean, there were so many that I could fill half of this list with them. But 10 Things I Hate About You stands apart in a way some of the others didn't. A Shakespearean tale, it follows a group of teens who are all involved in this elaborate plan to get to take one particular girl to the prom. This film is funny, well acted, well written, and original in its own way. It's got a banging soundtrack and some of the best characters in a high school movie we'll ever get. We get some great performance from some young stars before they blew up. Heath Ledger, rest his soul, Julia Stiles, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Gabrielle Union all were fun young characters in this movie. This film has its own charm like no other. Number 8, Superbad, 2007, directed by Greg Mottola. One of the last truly great comedies we've had, Superbad was a generational film and sort of summed up the kids born in the late 80s and early 90s high school experience. This movie is a quotable one, giving us the term DTF. It gave us McLovin and catapulted Jonah Hill and Michael Cera and Emma Stone into stardom. Superbad follows 3 high school seniors that are getting ready to go their separate ways in college. They have one last hurrah before graduation and try and get laid with the girls of their dreams. This movie is pure fun and escapism at its best and offers us some of the best chemistry between Jonah Hill and Michael Cera. From start to finish, it will have you laughing, and it is one of the most rewatchable films you'll ever see. Number 7, Clueless, 1995, directed by Amy Heckerling. This film is more popular now than it was when it came out. Somehow, the younger generation still connects with this movie and find its greatness almost 30 years later. This movie is like a time machine set to take you right into the mid-90s with the blatant placement and love of the times displayed all over the film. From the clothes and music to the movies and lingos, it's all in this film. Clueless follows Cher, a young rich girl living in Beverly Hills who has no idea how easy she has it and what life is outside of her little bubble. We got some funny, memorable scenes that just get better with age. Her taking her driver's test is one of my all time favorite movie scenes. This movie has an all star cast with Alicia Silverstone, Stacey Dash, Brittany Murphy, rest in peace, Paul Rudd, Donald Faison, and Breckin Meyer. This, along with the next movie on the list, shows you how clicks really were big back in the day. This movie is timeless and a personal favorite. I first saw it when I was 6 years old. Number 6. Mean Girls, 2004, directed by Mark Waters. One of the most quotable movies and has become a pop culture icon. Mean Girls is one of the most unique high school movies in its style and in the writing from Tina Fey and Mark Waters. Fitting for the time it came out, it follows a transfer student to Chicago from Africa as she navigates to the top of popularity by sabotaging the queen bee at school. This movie is comedy gold as we get some amazing and very memorable characters and some of the best scenes and quotes in high school movie history. This film was a ride from start to finish and one the boys love just as much as the girls. Hell, maybe even more. I went to see this movie back in 6th grade with the homies and our little girlfriends at the time. We didn't want to see it, but they insisted, so we went, and we ended up laughing way harder than the girls did. It was great. Regina George is one of my favorite movie villains of all time. Rachel McAdams, Amy Poehler, and Amanda Seyfried serve up some amazing performances in this movie. Getting into the top 5. Number 5. Perks of Being a Wallflower, 2012, directed by Steven Chbosky. Based on the book of the same name that's sitting on my desk that I am going to read very soon, the film honestly blew me away when I first saw it. It follows a young boy who befriends some older kids at school after facing a few traumatic incidents. He learns about love and friendship and how to face the trauma he's dealing with to become a healthier and happier person. This is the ultimate teenage film for the kids who feel isolated from society and feel like no one gets them. The film that shows the recluse breaking out of their shell. This film presents its situations in a fun and heartfelt way and has some great characters. You get 2 performances from Ezra Miller and Emma Watson that are just stellar. This is one of my personal favorite films and, in a way, in my eyes, probably a modern classic. Number 4. Dazed and Confused, 1993, directed by Richard Linklater. A film loaded with a star-studded cast before they were all big, Richard Linklater gives us one of the best and most fun stoner comedies of all time. A film set in the mid-70s following a bunch of kids as they party, drive around, play sports, and get into all sorts of trouble. Now with that description, that doesn't sound like much fun, but each character in this movie is so unique and gives it so much personality and flavor. The motivations of these characters are very apparent, and they grow through this one day and embark on their own personal journeys to their futures. Look out for a young Ben Affleck performance that'll make you laugh in this movie. Number 3. American Pie, 1999, directed by Paul Weitz. Could arguably be number 1. It's sort of one of the defining high school movies of all time. A pop culture staple, and its legacy is carried through the last 2 decades, and the nostalgia for this film is very apparent even still today. Another one released in the golden year of 99, this movie follows a group of high school boys who are on a mission to lose their virginity before they graduate. This film is funny, raunchy, and highly inappropriate, and that's what makes it so great. This film coined the phrase MILF, which is still used all the time today. We got the birth of Stifler, and the film was so popular and successful that it spawned a ton of sequels and spinoffs. This movie encompasses everything great about the fun party high school movie, and honestly, not many can compare to it. Number 2. Dead Poets Society, 1989, directed by Peter Weir. Man, I didn't see this one come up a lot in my research. We all know Peter Weir is a great director and Robin Williams is a great actor, and this collaboration is timeless. This film follows a group of boys at a prep school as they discover poetry through their new English teacher, John Keating. His unorthodox methods inspire these young boys as they break out of their shells in order to pursue their dreams and not their parents. This film is a brilliant look into the lives of young teens who feel the pressure from their parents to excel and perform. Even though it will make you laugh, this film will leave your heart heavy as you see these boys grow and go through life-changing events that will leave you feeling it a lot longer after you watch it. Each individual in this movie is someone you know or you may relate to them yourself. Guys, before we reveal number 1, I have 10 honorable mentions. And guys, let me just tell you, it was so hard leaving so many movies off the list and leaving so many even off the honorable mentions. I tried to pick 10 honorable mentions that were important to the advancement of cinema and high school films. So, no particular order. Dope. The Spectacular Now. Lady Bird. Grease. She's All That. Ferris Bueller. Not Another Teen Movie. The Hate You Give. 16 Candles. And 21 Jump Street. Now, guys, for my number 1 pick. I know I said that number 1 should be a film that everyone would probably agree on, but after I watched this film and thought about its legacy, it had to be number 1. Number 1. The Last Picture Show, 1971, directed by Peter Bogdanovich. Our number 1 pick had to be this film. I felt the top pick should be one that not only is a great high school movie, but truly one of the best movies ever made. The Last Picture Show follows a year of high school seniors, Sonny and Dwayne, as they navigate through life in their dying small Texas town. They both are experiencing love in different ways and growing up in this small dying town where everyone knows each other and life revolves around the simple things. What makes this movie great is that it feels very lived in. This film plays out in a very realistic way, and if you've seen the film, you'll understand what I mean. Every single character was relatable in one way or another, and if you grew up in a very small town, you'll likely relate to this movie a whole lot. But even if you didn't grow up in a small town, you'll still feel like you are right in the shoes of these people, and you'll find yourself very invested in these characters and the outcomes in the end. This movie is quite funny, but it isn't a comedy. It's definitely an intimate look into the lives of the everyday people of America and how we can face tragedies, insecurities, uncertainties, and all the simple complications that come with growing up. But not just the teens, lots of adults too. If you haven't seen The Last Picture Show, it is an absolute must watch. You see some young performances from Jeff Bridges and Sybil Shepherd. And guys, I will absolutely go as far as to say that this is one of the best films ever made. Guys, thank you so much for watching my best high school movies of all time list. Let me know your favorites below. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Would love to get some discussions going. If you made it this far, like and subscribe. I know it was long. Let me know if there's a film or a topic you want me to cover. I will be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.